Good morning and welcome to Entrepreneurs Hour. I'm your host, Chris Austin, and I'm the president of RDM and the Rock Coast Entrepreneurs and also representing Maine on the NSBA Leadership Council. I'm excited to bring you this show on 93.3 WRFR. Thank you to all of the sponsors of this station for making this happen. We're here to explore the journeys of local entrepreneurs and people who support them. Each week, we'll share stories of success, challenges, and valuable lessons, showing how local organizations like the Rock Coast Entrepreneurs, the Penobscot Bay Regional Chamber of Commerce, and so many others are helping to build a strong, thriving business community here in Knox County. Whether you're starting a business, growing one, or supporting local entrepreneurs, this show is for you. Let's inspire and support our local business community together. All right, everybody. Today, we're diving into the world of youth entrepreneurship and how a local school system is participating with small businesses and organizations, as well as our great city of Rockland and our surrounding areas. A rising movement that's shaping both the future as well as really just helping individuals. We're joined by Jesse Bartke today, principal of Oceanside High School, and Molly Staples, who's the school's extended learning coordinator. Both are making waves in our community by supporting and inspiring the next generation of entrepreneurs. Thank you for joining me this morning, to both of you. I want to start the conversation with a little bit of a story that inspired both this show, being able to have two great guests, but also to something that really was driving my blog this week. And it was a story about a 16-year-old entrepreneur in 2021. When, we all know what was going on back then. Our kids, our youth, they were really in a difficult place. They were taken away from their family, their friends, and they were really put into, their own individual silos. But creativity can come through those types of things. And the 16-year-old in 2021 launched a business from her garage, making jewelry in her garage during that difficult COVID time, turning a little side hustle into what is projected to be $3.1 million in annual revenue this year as a 21-year-old. So this story underscores the power of youthful creativity, resourcefulness, and a strong support system. So with this transition, there is a revolution that's happening right now with our youth. Our youth have learned that they can do some amazing things on an individual level. That spells a recipe of success for entrepreneurs. And we're seeing it in our schools. We're seeing it in really young ages, which is great, young adults, and we're seeing this huge lift in this. So this is a great time for us to have this type of conversation and just talk about some of the ways that this school system, RSU 13, is really helping with the community, helping their students, more importantly, that's the top priority, but also really changing some future lives. So introduction, I just want to first introduce Jesse Bartke, who's the principal of Oceanside High School. We're going to be talking to you, Jesse. So I would love to have you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having us here today. My name is Jesse Bartke. I have worked in Rockland schools for, I believe this is my 17th year. I started off as a special education teacher, running an alternative special education program for a number of years before got hired on to be assistant principal for 4 years at Oceanside. And this is, I believe, my 6th year as principal. They all kind of blur together a little bit. It's tough to keep track. But, we've been there through construction and COVID and really kind of coming out the other side of some things, have some really great opportunities, doing some really cool things with kids that we're really proud of right now.
That's awesome. So, we talked before the show started, you've done some amazing work, you and your staff, addressing challenges like re-engaging teens and, reducing this post-COVID struggles that we've been going through. I mean, you've done some amazing work in that school. So what unique challenges have you faced in our community, and how have you seen improvement, especially among the younger students?
Yeah, I mean, working with kids, there's always a lot of unique challenges. Every day is a bit of an adventure. But, what we really saw in the past couple of years as folks are reading about in the paper and hearing about it is a number of our kids were just in a really tough place. They were really struggling to regulate, to kind of reintegrate coming out of a really difficult time with COVID and exist together with all the heightened anxieties and things like that. So, the school, in partnership with Rockland PD and a number of other local organizations, we really, reality made a priority to figure out how can we best support our youth and really bring that baseline back down for them, so that way we can rebuild our community and our community of youth. Because when we got a handful of kids that are struggling, those ripples impact everybody. It impacts the teachers, it impacts the families, it impacts families without kids. It's the community overall. So we felt it was our duty to figure out what we can do to get the students to feel more comfortable and being part of a group and being part of the school and feel valued within that space. So through work with restorative practices, a lot of intentional relationship building, really thoughtful and creative programming, really working to meet each kid where they're at and figure out what are the skills that they need to move forward. I feel like we've made quite a bit of progress in a really short period of time.
Absolutely. I know that I had opened up about this revolution that we're just seeing this cycle of a lot of young entrepreneurs. Why do you think students across the United States are becoming entrepreneurs at such a young age? And this is coming from a perspective as an educator, right?
Yeah.
Not an entrepreneur,
Right.
but from an educator.
I think first exposure. I think kids can see with the world of the internet and things like that. I think kids can see that those possibilities a lot more readily. So I think they're thinking about those things. But I also think in schools, at least I can speak for us, we're really working to develop kids' sense of self and their ability to think through challenging problems, figure out what problems they want to solve, how they want to give back to their communities, but also take action on those and develop the skill sets on how do they do that, what is the process to do that. And also, I think a really important part for us is teaching kids how to fail, dust themselves off, and then continue to plug along and figure out what those next steps are. That failure is not an end point, it's just a checkpoint along the path. And sometimes it's okay to take a detour, sometimes it's okay to make a change, and really developing the sense of self that it takes to be able to do that and feel comfortable with that. It takes many folks a long time to do that, so we're trying to instill that in our youth at a much younger age.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely. It's such a valuable lesson for young adults, kids to learn, is that failure is not necessarily a bad thing. Like it is something that, you have to be able to engineers just don't create something right from the get-go, right? And it just works. No, it probably is like lots and lots and lots of like learning lessons. And
failure is one of the best learning experiences we have. We learn a lot more from failure than from just being successful on the first go every single time, which means we need to take risks and challenges sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's learning how to calculate those things, having the skill set to really survey all the things that go into making a decision and making informed decisions.
Absolutely. So, I know that I've been, a participant in some of the program there, and I know we're going to get into a lot of that when we talk to you, Molly, here in a few minutes. But, so as an administrator of the high school, what type of investments has Oceanside been making, to create this environment, and maybe even give us a little bit of a vision into the future as well?
Yeah, so I'm really grateful for our assistant superintendent, who has become really great at finding funding and applying for grants and getting those grants. So we've been able to get a lot of funding that doesn't impact the taxpayers, that allows for us to do things like starting the ELO program that Molly's working with right now. That has allowed for us to really invest in the relationship capital within our greater community. Because the great thing about Rockland is a lot of folks want to help, but it's trying to find that connection. They don't always quite know exactly where that starting point is, but kids also don't know where they want to be connected with either. Most kids are only looking to pursue things that they know about, but there's so many other things out there. So we've really invested our time and energy and resources in trying to break that down and identifying from kids what are the things that you are interested in and why. And then it's kids interested in the service industry, finding out why. Maybe they really love customer service and those parts, but that can apply to many different fields. So then connecting them with folks in the community for those variety of different things. So even if it's something that they decide they don't want to do, they know that they don't want to do it as a kid in high school, which is a valuable thing, because how many of us have changed careers or college majors or things like that, throughout our lives. I would say probably the majority of folks have made some changes. So, we're letting them take those risks and eliminate some things off their list when there's not a financial toll that goes along with that. But they're also making connections within the community too. So it may not be a direct connection, but that person may know somebody else who then could put them in a position to explore something else. So I think we're allowing our youth to really take a look at what types of things they want to do, what types of problems they want to solve, and what do they enjoy about the work that they're doing.
Awesome. Any future, anything that you can give us a little snapshot?
Yeah, I mean, we really want to continue to expand this. I mean, we have future goals of getting every kid out before they graduate into a job shadow or internship. So every kid has at least one meaningful work experience over the course of their high school career. And really building that into our programming. It's high school, when it comes to here in high school, it really should be an opportunity for kids to start playing in what comes next. That should be the bridge to whatever their post-secondary plans are, whether it's taking challenging courses and getting ready for a tough college program, or maybe entering the workforce, or trying to narrow down what are those things I would like to do with a major. So providing as many meaningful opportunities for kids to explore those things is really what we would like to continue to do. And I think every year we're getting more and more kids out there, getting more kids out into work experiences, and more kids thinking about what are the types of things that I want to do.
Yeah. And I love that idea about getting the kids out there, and we've talked about this, in the meetings I've had with the folks over at Rockland Main Street. Malik, we've talked about this as well, but it's getting these kids invested in their community is so important.
Absolutely.
But we also have a lot of healing to go through as a community, because I think that downtown businesses, they see sometimes the youth being problematic, and that's just a small, tiny fraction of some amazing kids in our community. So, how do we build that trust with the small business community and bring these students in, and really invest into that future?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. But I think it's so much of it comes down to relationships and realizing that our youth also have something valuable to bring to the table, and connecting them with those businesses and having that be really visible and promoting that work that they're doing. So that way, just like any group of folks, there's some folks that maybe are struggling and have some things that they need to do to get to a better place. But then we have a large number of kids who have a lot to give back and really want to be able to do that. But if I'm a business owner or somebody out in the community that doesn't have experience with high school kids, and you're only reading about what's the bad stuff, that's going to paint your perception of some of those high school kids. But if you can see all those really good things going on too, and even see some of those kids who we have a number of kids who were struggling, and they were some of the kids that we have read about in the paper in the past. But if we see what they're doing now, that they are giving back to their community, and they are making progress with that, and really celebrating their personal growth as well, and the supports that they've been provided to be able to make some changes for the better.
Awesome. And this is, what are the benefits of RSU 13, partnering with organizations like MCST, Rockland Main Street Incorporated, and others to create more opportunities for youth? What are those benefits do you really see?
I mean, the more assets we have as far as collecting community assets, the more creative we can be with our programming, which makes that schooling more meaningful for our kids. We know across the country, post-COVID, attendance rates are lower, truancy has increased. Kids are struggling to get to school, and I think kids and families sometimes are struggling to find the value of school. So it's, I think, our job to make that a valuable experience for kids, and recognizing that every kid needs something a little bit different. And by having that community capital that we're developing in those relationships, and the creative program at MCST, or finding internships, or coming up with a creative independent study, we can make that a meaningful experience for each kid that is going to motivate them to show up to school every single day. And we can connect all those other dots too. Here's why math's important. Here's why English is important. But then here's all this plays together.
Yeah, awesome. I know that 2 years ago, there was a young man that was a football player, basketball player, and he was a Oceanside student, but also went to MCST, small engines for a boat. And he told Rotary, when he was getting his his scholarship that he wants to be an entrepreneur, and and MCST really helped him with that. He was a great student as well as at the high school, and I would just say is that in some of the other school districts, I think there has been not as much support, because I would just tell you what I'm hearing from RSU 13 as well as for 40 is that the schools are very much great partners with that additional resources like MCST, where some of the other schools are saying it's not college, I don't want to put my kids there, and so how do we change that perception? Because I'll tell you, there's some amazing things that are happening over there. There's amazing things that are happening at RSU 13, so you can have it both ways. Yeah. So, like, how would you tell your peers out there embrace these technical programs?
Yeah, no, and I mean, I think we have to make it personal, right? Like, so we have to talk about the kids who have had success and how that plays into their programming and how there's room in the technical fields for every type of student. I think back like when we were in school, the views of the tech schools and the trades were for a certain type of kid. That wasn't for everybody. That's not the case anymore, and there's so much overlap between what we see as traditional students and the trades in the fields with that work with composites and engineering and 3D printing, and even just like starting your own small engines business or mowing business. We have a student who graduated probably getting to be a while now, maybe almost 10 years ago now, who has a very successful mowing business around in the area, and he started that when he was in high school, along with some of the support of the MCST, and we provided him some work release to be able to do some of that stuff, and now like he's one of the ones we see all over town with his multiple trucks, and he's got a garage and all that stuff too. That's awesome. So I think it's just providing those opportunities for the kids and really showing that to anyone who's questioning the value of that, being like, we're setting this kid up for success, right? By being able to provide them with these opportunities and try this stuff out with the support network of school.
This just shows the creativity of you working with the student and saying, listen, it's not traditional. Like, you're not leaving school to go work for an employer. You're going out there and doing your own business. Yep, like, absolutely. How amazing is that? And these are kids that are out there making money and and enjoying what they're doing, and that's great. And I would just say is that this is going to be a great transition. Thank you so much for doing that, and we'll bring you into this conversation here shortly. But Molly, let's talk to you now. Molly Staples serves as the Extended Learning Coordinator at Oceanside High School. She's actively engaging students through innovative programs and connections to the community. And that's how you and I got started, and had a great conversation. I think it was last spring, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. Or yeah. So Molly, tell us a little bit about your role as the ELO. Is ELO, right?
Yes.
So what's the O? Because I saw the extended learning.
So extended learning opportunity.
Opportunity. There we go. All right.
So it's basically learning outside the classroom and being able to earn credit for that. Mm-hmm. And my job is a little bit different this year because I also have this role of student support coordinator, but it really is just an umbrella under which ELOs live. So that's been kind of a small change, but it's basically just being creative with the pathway for students to get to graduation and then to also see their post-secondary pathway for exactly what they want it to be. It's a very student-centered kind of learning.
So give me an example. You don't have to use, obviously we're not using a student's name, but just share an example of how a student comes into your program. How does that look?
It can come from so many different ways.
Okay.
So I think sometimes I have teachers that will send me a student name, or sometimes a student will stop by and say, I'm really interested in engineering or machining or something, and I need to test this out, or oftentimes it comes from someone saying, I want to go to college for veterinary. And so then we kind of reel it back because, to Jesse's point, sometimes students think they want to do something because that's what they've seen. And so one of my jobs is to kind of just say, yes, we want to do this. We want to be a veterinarian, or we want to be a surgeon, or we want to be, what are the other healthcare careers, or what does the pathway for that look like? What does the schooling for that look like? And what are the interests that kind of bring you to that table, so that we can also kind of look at the parallel paths that could be there? Because sometimes they say, I want to be this because they have a really big interest in helping people and healthcare and the science of it all, and they really want to dig into something. And so being able to explore those kind of parallel pathways is really meaningful. So we can send them, we have a great partnership with Maine Health, we have a great partnership with a veterinary clinic locally, and so we can send them to a couple different places in the medical field. One of the things I tell students is that like high school is the freest that your life will be financially. This is the place to try something. You don't have to, you're not paying for anything. So go ahead and like make mistakes and try things out and rule things out. And we've been really lucky to be able to transport students as well, to remove that barrier and really create equity in that program, and get students to try out a variety of things and be able to rule things in or out so that when they actually graduate, they have a better idea of what they want to do, and also things they might want to keep in the circle that they didn't even think about. Like, oh, I really do want to go into the healthcare field, and I think I have a couple different ideas that I still need to kind of dabble in to really fine tune what my path is.
Awesome. Recently, you had invited me, as well as I know that you had the resource officer in the classroom. It was it was fun. But, you had invited me to come and speak to, students about small businesses, as they were developing some small business plans. So I don't know if that was that your classroom, or were you in there in partnership with someone else? So I'm in the Career Center classroom that we have, which is in our new modular space. So I work in there with Lisa Mejias, trying to bring in speakers and visitors who can help students kind of see some of those career pathways that might not necessarily align with college. Like, we're never saying don't go to college, but we're also identifying that college isn't necessarily for every student. So a lot of the people that we bring in are speaking to, like, here are all the options that you may not have seen, that may not require a college education, or it's not necessarily like the most important part of the story. I mean, one of the stories that you told in the classroom was about golf balls and like starting an entrepreneurial path at a young age, which I think resonated with the kids and how creative they are to pave their own path and get started on some financial independence, I think. But yeah, that classroom space is where we teach our career exploration program, which is Lisa Mejias, who I always mess up her actual title, but she works for Midco School of Technology and teaches in our space. Yeah, so, and she's doing a business startup component to her class where they have to come up with their own ideas, make a business plan, and I'm helping her with some of her guest speakers, and also trying to like bounce ideas around about what parts of this translate to students who might not start their own business. But there's lots of lessons to be learned in a mock business planning exercise. Yeah. So that was, I think, that was about a month ago that it all just comes together. But anyway, have you had, like, are they still in that same module, or have they wrapped that up? Like, I remember they were coming up with, like, I remember there was two students that were coming up with a taco truck.
Yes.
And it was fun because we were just doing popcorn style, like spitballing ideas and concepts, and just like marketing concepts and different things. I'm just curious to see how that's going for the students.
Yeah, it's going really well. Lisa's had great success with them. I think that what she's doing is touching upon things, and then so that it doesn't get drawn out, she kind of brings in new concepts, and then they kind of circle back with like, what did you learn? So I don't actually know where exactly she is in that programming, but I know that towards the end of this quarter, I believe, I'll kind of circle back with the students to kind of be a pinpoint, as opposed to like being along with them every step of the way.
Listen, I will tell you, if there's a pitch contest, that would be fun, like maybe a gift card or something like that. Like, I'm putting it out there. RDA will sponsor this, all right?
Okay.
So, but what I'd love to do is I'd love to have the top 2 pitch ideas come in and pitch their ideas on the radio.
That'd be incredible.
And it's just a conversation, great experience. But also, it's fun. It's fun talking about this imaginary thing. But for a lot of these kids, it actually could be something that sparks something in their minds, like, I could actually make this a go. And go forward, which is pretty cool. I know that, how was this experience for, you've been in this position for 2 years? So like, how do you think that this is all going for the students, like this journey? And I'm sure that you're following these students, and like, what are some of the best things that have happened from this? For yourself, you can say about yourself too. Like, this must be rewarding.
It is very rewarding. I think that, just speaking generally, some of the best things that have happened are seeing students kind of re-engage with their kind of sense of belonging in our school, and seeing that things are relevant. I think Jesse kind of touched on this. Sometimes it's hard to see why school is important. If you have a business that you're already operating outside of school, you're just like, I just need to check off these things. I just need to check off these things so that I can get a diploma. But we can still create some really meaningful programming. So I'm working with a student right now, for example, who is just like, he's like, I know I need one more credit in order to graduate. And so we worked together and created an independent study on entrepreneurship, utilizing some of the tools from the SBA. I'll probably work with a SCORE mentor. I've worked with Frank before, trying to give him just like, what holes do you have in your business planning? Because we don't have all of the tools at 17. What have you missed? What about insurances, and what about business planning for the future? Having a proper business plan that accounts for things you might need to replace, or your growth. How do you hire an employee? Who are you going to call when this happens? And kind of paving that out. And so, I mean, he was pretty psyched, because I think we want to say that every moment of school is relevant to every student. We want to say that. We want them to feel that when they're in the building. And the truth is, that's kind of impossible for them to feel that at every moment. So the more we can inject things that are obviously relevant to their current experiences, the more that they see that we're trying to work with them and be creative, and they trust us, and they show up and want to be there, and that's what we want.
That's awesome. Well, you said it was Frank from SCORE. Let's
Yeah.
give them a shout out, because SCORE is underutilized.
Oh, it's incredible.
They're amazing.
Yeah.
We have the SBDC, we have SCORE, we have all these organizations that's free for people to utilize.
Mm-hmm.
So let's give them a shout out.
Yeah, Frank Yonner from SCORE has come to Oceanside, I think 3 times. He's come and he's spoken to a few of my classes when I was teaching more last year, and then he also went into Lisa's class and talked to them about their business planning. And he brings with him all these experiences and his building up his own business and then selling that, and then he has multiple clients that he works with, and he's giving that. He's treating the students with the same level of respect and professionalism that he would a client, which is just incredible. And he's taking them seriously, much like you did when you're saying, like, okay, taco truck, I got it. Like, yes, you want to go to engineering school, and yes, you want to be a nurse, but you're planning a taco truck. Let's take it seriously. Which is just great to give them that belief.
That's awesome. Well, Frank, if you're listening, we want you on the show, and I would love to have that student on the show and have that perspective of that learning journey and what they learned to that, because that could really equate to other students that are out there that are listening, but also to just young entrepreneurs, or just entrepreneurs in general, regardless of age. Listen, we're all we all can learn and develop and come up with these plans. So that's awesome. One of the things I really wanted to talk about is the internship program, and it's a paid internship program through a grant. And I'm probably not doing it justice. Okay. So I'd love for you to take it from here.
So
tell us about this program.
So much like Jesse said, the assistant superintendent worked very hard to access grant funding to start my position, and also to pay students and to transport students and to purchase the supportive equipment to be able to support students through this process of internship. That has since transitioned, and I have become an employee of the school district, and the payment for students is different because it's accessing it through Manpower, which is also a recipient of grant funding and able to pay students for 40 to 75 hours of meaningful employment doing all sorts of things. I want to just be very clear, I'm still learning about all the prohibited things they can't do. But there are plenty of opportunities for students. So whether they're coming and learning about this radio station, or they're going to learn about payroll, or they're going to a bookkeeper, or they're going to, there's so many things that they can do. they can get paid for that. And the school provides that transportation again to increase equity. But yeah, it's really incredible. We have students taking advantage of it. The money is available through October 2026. And I don't think enough businesses know about this, because you can offer it as an onboarding opportunity for a new employee to cover the training costs of bringing a new employee on. We all know that first 75 hours can be kind of crucial, and maybe they don't work out. Maybe they don't actually like the job, so that's like creating low risk. They also cover workman's comp during that time. Or it can be like, I have a project that I want to do, and I'd really love a student to help with that project. And that project is about 75 hours or 60 hours. And so you can bring that student in and create a social media marketing campaign for your business, or you could plan an event that you're trying to do. I don't know, there's so many opportunities where you could bring a student in to help with that and have them paid through manpower. And it's a very, very easy process. And I just would love a lot more businesses to take advantage of it, because I think it's very cool for the local economy.
So how do we get the word out there? Because I'll tell you, like, I don't think many people are aware of it. I know that you're an advocate and you have an audience, and people in your circle hear about it and know about it. But you know, we have a lot of small businesses in our area. So so how do we get that? How does RSU 13 and Oceanside and this program, how do we get this out there for small businesses to know? Because again, this is creating that partnership that we're working so hard on right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hopeful that my continuing shouting from the rooftops is helping. But I've also been in contact with the Chamber of Commerce and with Rockland Main Street to try to continue to build those bridges between the school and our community. And it's kind of, it's interesting to watch business owners be creative. Like, I kind of just watched you a little bit, like, oh, I didn't realize I could do that with a project, you know? So I think business owners in general, if I can just get on a soapbox for a moment, I think they're so used to people taking money from them that they don't realize that there's this program that would actually like help them and give them this asset of another brain in the building that's not paid by them. So it takes them sometimes a minute to realize, like, oh, okay, I can get this paid for. That's incredible.
That's awesome.
So I just think it kind of takes like a little bit of repetition and just continuing to talk about it. And I'm hoping that this program will continue. It would be so incredible if it went beyond 2026, so we can continue building those relationships with our community and allowing students who might actually need that income to have that coming in. Yeah.
Awesome. Now you have a really close relationship with Rockland Main Street. So tell us a little bit about, like, what have you guys been talking about? Like, and I think that there's some good positive things that are happening. Is there any programming that you're working on with Rockland Main Street? Like, I'd love to see that partnership and talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So I think the main thing that I've talked with David Gogel for the past few years, couple years, is that our community is our campus. And that has kind of been the overarching theme of, I mean, I bring that to my job with me every day. And so David and I consistently talk about how are we working on that theme where, to your point, where students are walking on Main Street and they're seen as members of the community and not like, oh, what are they doing? I think that's really, really important. And I think that some of that is just continuing to build most of that is just continuing to build those relationships in our community so that you might know that kid and wave to that kid at the grocery store. You know, you might recognize them because you're paying more attention to what Oceanside's doing. Maybe you've seen them posted for a basketball game or whatever it is. I think just continuing to build that networking in our community is important. David's been instrumental in that. We created RSU 13, funded through our grant, a website to be able to list local jobs, much to what you're doing on your Facebook page, because I think that sometimes we just think that hiring a high schooler might be risky, but it's not. They love to work. They're creative, they're energetic, and they love to work. So I think, you know, continuing to encourage that in our community, which David is a proponent of as well, has just been, it's been 2 years of work, and we have just so much more to do.
Is there a relationship with the Maine Department of Labor locally in the school? Have we been able to bridge that connection at all?
I've spoken with Charlotte Department of Labor about mostly the things that we've connected about have been making sure that we're keeping students safe and really understanding child safety when we're having conversations, and that I can speak with confidence when I'm talking about that, because I think that is a barrier to hiring students. Like, oh, well, they can't use power tools. Well, they can use power tools if it is in a monitored setting and it's a part of a learning experience. So they actually, there's a little asterisk there under the, so it's just continuing to educate and continuing to really have an understanding so that you can speak with some confidence about these things, and kind of overcome barrier after barrier as to why don't we have more students? You can hire a 17-year-old.
Yeah.
You just have to teach them.
Right. And that was the whole purpose of why we created that Penn Bay Chamber team board, a team job board, is that, listen, I have 4 kids. 2 are teens, and it is so difficult for them to be able to navigate the job scene. Like, most of the time, if it's a big box store or a big grocery store chain, everything is online. They have to go on and they have to take all these questions that are not even close to being relevant to. They don't even know how to answer the question. They don't even understand what it means, because it's like way beyond their years. This, and it's complex, and they don't hear from anyone. And then when they do, they're like, "Oh, sorry, you're too young for this job, but we have this other job, so reapply." So
it's discouraging.
It really is discouraging, and all we want to do is just tell us, here is the job, here are the requirements, age. Listen, this is not discrimination. It is reverse discrimination, because we got to be able to tell these kids what they can and cannot do. Let's not waste their time and discourage them. And so I think this is where Maine Department of Labor can really help navigate that a little bit for us. I mean, this is just me thinking outside the box here a little bit. But also, too, I know that they have a lot of paid training programs for employers. But imagine if they were to do that, couple that with what you're doing at RSU 13, and next thing you know, these kids have a phenomenal infrastructure to thrive in, and they're helping small businesses who cannot find employees. And listen, if you're a small business and you can hire teens, let Molly know, let everyone know, so that way we can get the word out there for you. You're not alone. We can get people in there to fill the seats. All right, enough of that soapbox.
And we can also help you we can partner with you to make it easier to hire a student by educating you about the things that they can and cannot do, helping answer questions about how late they can work at night, and we can pay them for their first 75 hours so that you can do the training at no cost to your business. You don't have to put them on workman's comp insurance yet. Like, it's much more easy, and I think people think I work for the school, so I'm not a resource. That's like my whole job, is to continue that community building. It's my whole job.
And I'm gonna put on, because as I'm on the board for the chamber. I love my Chamber of Commerce. The Penn Bay Chamber is the best chamber in the region, in my opinion. We got some great, strong leadership with Shannon at the helm. And I know that we're going through a lot of changes. How can the chamber, what can we do better as a chamber to create more opportunities for that next generation? And the chamber is not just for small businesses, it's a community perspective too, like a community partnership too. So, and I know that you've had some conversations, I think, with Shannon.
Yeah.
And so how's that conversation going? And let's talk about that a little bit.
So on Stephanie's door, the assistant superintendent, it says, "Have you been to a local school today?" I think that's what it says. And the thing that I wish that everyone would find a way to do in our community is to come to the school. I would love for the chamber, just speaking over Jesse, I'd love for the chamber to figure out how to have an event at the school, or come to the school and come to our career day, come just be there. I think, to your point, it helps to really understand what teenagers are actually like, and to see their learning environment, and to understand the incredible, if I could just sing from the rooftops, how incredible our school is, and the incredible amount of effort that we pour into students every single day, being creative with programming and helping meet them where they're at, and their social emotional learning, and making sure that we understand all the components of their life and what they need in order to be successful in math class. If you could see that, I think they'd be so much more open to oh yeah, I'll totally hire these kids. I think just continuing to build that relationship and believe that, and and act on that like Oceanside and RSU 13, need to be a partner with the Chamber of Commerce, because we are, like, our students are the future business owners and employees and community members. Like, we are the future chamber.
Yeah.
They're just not old enough.
Right, and especially those folks who haven't had a connection with the school, I'd say within the past 10 years, really 5 years, but like, it's been a while since you've been a part of the school and know what's going on there. Yeah, come take a look.
Yeah.
And I would just say I want to tell you this, that, we were events committee on the chamber board, all right? Gerald and I, we were absolutely pushing to have our annual expo at the high school. And it just logistically, we just could not pull it off. But the vision was, how amazing would it be for us to do like a fashion show of how to dress in the workplace, appropriately dress for every type of job, best interviewing skills. These are things that our students, as well as community members, could actually learn together and be able to really have that and put the school on like a pedestal. Like, look at this great resource. Look how beautiful this school is. Look at all the area that, and it's just, I'm telling you, I'm not done with this. We are going to have this.
I'm into it.
And I know that in the past, Jesse, I know that there's been job fairs at the school as well. Is that something that happens annually?
Yes, every spring.
Every spring?
Yeah. Our JMG teacher, Jane Ann Reinick, coordinates that.
Okay. I would just say, please have her reach out to the chamber.
Yep.
And, I know that I worked on the Rockland Main Street, on that committee when we were doing that job fair. And I will just say is that we've been, over the last 6 years, there's not enough employees. Well, I think that there are enough employees that are out there. They're looking for opportunities. I don't think that you're necessarily looking in the right areas. I think we need to have more job fairs or larger job fairs. I know that the chamber, we do that, as well as that when we do the expo, and then we have a job fair component. But it's not the same as having a dedicated job fair. And I know David Grima is, he may even be listening from the Department of Labor, and David's like all about job fairs.
Yeah.
But it's a marketing concept, it's about engagement, and I think we have to engage these students more and more and more, especially, resources such as the two of you.
Yeah, and then just to piggyback on that too, the smaller events are really important as well, and even just like popping in to a classroom. We have the Career Center now where Molly and Lisa work out of, that have students coming in and thinking about work within that space, and it's been a really deliberate design of that space. Kids really think about that. So even folks from the business community that just want to come in and just be a part of that class, it's an opportunity to have those conversations with kids in a less formal setting too, and can give some real opportunities to kind of see what the kids are thinking, what's going on in the schools, but also make that connection too, and maybe find some future employers.
That's awesome. That's
I'll
fantastic.
also say, through Rockland Main Street, I worked with John Jeffers a lot, who is a huge inspiration to a lot of the work I've been doing.
Person.
Oh God, he's so great. And one of the things that he and I talk about, because his daughter was in my class, and we talk about how, like, we all move away. Like, we have to give these kids a reason to stay, and it's not that there aren't reasons to stay. I mean, my husband and I we deliberately moved back here because, like, this is where we want to raise our family.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're a high schooler and there's nothing for you, there's no sense of belonging in the community. When, like, if Main Street wasn't welcoming, and if you couldn't find a place where your only option is a big box store, you can do that anywhere. Like, why not move to Portland? Why not move to Florida? Why not move? So we really have to help kids envision all the incredible opportunities here. Like, there's so many cool people and businesses and, like, startups and artists, and, like, the retiree population here is incredible. Like, we have so many cool people in Mid-Coast Maine. It's robust. And so we just have to show them that it's there, and then they might want to come back.
And it's one of those things, that's an investment. Like, when I was in Augusta with the lawmakers right before the election, I had heard that the class of 2025 is the smallest class ever in the state's history. And I haven't been able to validate this. I don't know if you can.
For us, that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah.
This class is pretty average size.
Is it?
For Oceanside, but yeah.
But and they said that they're and the reason why they're bringing that up is like we still need to invest in keeping our kids here, because if we keep them here and they're successful, then they have their their family, whatever that means to them. If they decide to expand and have children here, and it's just that cycle is just a few years away if we continue to do the work that we're doing right now.
Yeah, because enrollment is trending down in RSU 13 schools at this point too. So I think, to become a destination district for folks, really embracing these ideas of how we're providing holistic programming for kids to get them thinking about those next steps and getting engaged in their community. I think community-minded folks are going to want to come and be part of that as well.
Awesome. So Molly, for the next few minutes, I'd love to listen to this Entrepreneurs Hour. All right, and I know that you have a little entrepreneur in you. You have some experience, and I would love to just take a few minutes and just talk a little bit about your journey. And tell us a little bit about life before this position, and I think it really sets you up for success in this position, in my opinion. So I'd love to hear you share that.
Well, I think it actually speaks to a lot of things we were talking about before we started hitting the record button, which is about failing. And I think about, so the story that I tell students is that when I was in high school, I said I wanted to be a teacher, and I had a teacher at the time who called me out in the middle of class. I probably wasn't paying attention, and he was like, "What are you going to do after high school?" And I was like, "I'm going to be a teacher." And he was like, "I don't think that's a good idea." And
wow, way to be encouraging.
I know, it was actually very discouraging. And so therefore, I went on a path of discovery. That was, I went to school for theater for a couple years. I changed gears, switched schools. I did a dietetic program at University of Connecticut, which was a 900-hour internship, kind of meshed in, which pushed me to my limits. Then I got out of school. I worked in long-term care. I worked in hospitals. I was a traveling dietitian. I went to Kansas and upstate New York. Eventually, I married my husband. I became a doula and a massage therapist. I did a whole bunch of different things.
Wow.
And I opened a consignment store on Main Street in Rockland during the pandemic. I have worked as a massage therapist and a doula, both birth and postpartum. I have done a lot of different things. And then I look at students sometimes when they talk about what they really want to do, and I'm like, and here I am, teaching. If I had just stuck with the thing and not let someone tell me not to,
However, though, for you, do you think you would be as effective in your role if you didn't try all those things?
Exactly.
Right?
No. And I'm also a person who I need to be moving and learning and growing all the time. I have to be on to the next thing. So I've learned a lot about myself, and I've learned a lot. This story, I think, is just really important to share with students. I think it's so I have to dig into my quote unquote failures all the time to be able to show them there's plenty of lessons to be learned from my life. Which one would you like? And so my entrepreneurial journey, really, a lot of it has to do with timing. A lot of it has to do with prioritizing. But the thing that I will take from it to talk to students a lot about is, because I think it translates to entrepreneurship and just real life, is knowing when you need help, knowing when you can't do it all, knowing your resources, knowing what you're not good at or what you can't be good at because you literally don't have enough time. And at the end of the day, in my entrepreneurial life, things happened that were outside of my control, where I wasn't able to access the space anymore. And I kind of was exhausted. I was I don't really have the creativity and the drive to continue working so hard when the thing I really want to work hard at are the three beings that are at home. I don't want to spend this much time away from them to build this empire when I'm actually happy with less. I'm happy with less, and I'm happy doing something completely different. And I'm so glad that I made that choice, because I was able to find this position. I ended up going back to school, and I got certified to be a biology teacher because I already had a science degree. And when I was doing some education courses, my teacher was like, if you're going to work in a school, you should probably go get a job in a school and make sure that that's actually what you want to do. And I was like, But this job was available, and I was like, okay, let's just see what happens. And I'm so glad I did, because I absolutely love it.
Sure.
I love working with students, and I love being able to utilize all of the things that I've failed at, and all of the things that haven't worked for me, and all the things that I hated. Like, there are some things that I've worked at, like places I've worked, and I made plenty of money doing it. And, you know, some of my students would be like, that's great, that's all I need. And I hated it. I was miserable. And I was like emotional every night. And my husband is like, please don't ever do that again. You know, and it's so important to not be afraid to fail, to fail forward, to learn those lessons, which includes entrepreneurial life. You know, being able to say, I'm not good at this, or I need help. So I mean, that kind of answers your question.
Yeah, no. And well, here's the thing is that, you know, what are some of the things that, you know, that you would have told yourself, your younger self, a younger entrepreneur, like what would be the first thing that you would tell yourself right now? I know that, listen, you know, your journey brought you to this, so this isn't a mistake. Like,
No.
your journey is here,
No,
right?
yeah.
And this is a wonderful thing. But that life work balance was really tough.
Yeah.
So I'd love for you to expand more on that. Like, what would you have told your younger self of how to avoid those headaches?
It's impossible to do this alone. And if you can't trust other people to help you, you can't do this.
That has been a huge trend of every single conversation, is that people when they take that leap in becoming an entrepreneur, they feel, I've been there, that you're alone. And you're not. You have a wonderful business community that's there, that's feeling the same things that you are.
And I think part of it is that it was during COVID.
Oh, yes.
So like, is there more, like, could I have done more to be alone? And so, you know, all's well that ends well. But it was like a huge exercise in like trying to get support when I couldn't see anybody. And now, like, I'm so much better at like finding my resources and like Zoom and like having meetings and all of that stuff. But in that space, I was so tired, you know. And
You're on mute.
Yeah, like I couldn't even think about problem solving my way out of that space. You know, one of the things I really appreciate about working at the school is that when I'm feeling like, oh my God, I just can't even think about how to solve this problem, I can just like walk out of my like office space or walk out of like, and just look for someone and kind of get help brainstorming and problem solving this, because we're all kind of like trying to do the thing together. And oftentimes they'll give me a perspective that like was just exactly what I needed. So I think that's the feedback.
Yeah.
Just
now,
cannot do these things
Now,
alone.
you have family that are entrepreneurs as well. You know, what are some of the challenges that you feel that, what are resources, what are ways that our business community can be better supportive of entrepreneurs, especially in this area? I would love to get your perspective, you know, from someone that's on the sidelines, but still very involved because of family.
I think it's the same advice I would say about, you know, being involved in the school. I think, you know, I talked with a local business owner who felt like the local businesses don't just come in. You know, there might be emails sent or social media posts shared, but it's that feeling of being alone. And so I think it's just walking into a space and like actually getting an idea of like what it looks like and how it feels, and purchasing something, even if it's small, from them, and just like patronizing each other's businesses is actually really important. I think that there's the networking that we do in Mid-Coast Maine with events is actually a lot. You know, there's a chamber after hours, there's Rockland Main Street, there's all sorts of ways to meet other business owners. I think it's really important to walk in and to actually spend money there or spend time there. Yeah, I think that's the thing, and it's the same advice for the school. If you want to get involved with the school, show up.
Okay. Jesse, I know that your wife works for a different school district, and she's a teacher at my kid's school too. So it's fun for me. 3 districts, all right, that I'm involved in, all right. You know, I would say that right now we probably have some students that are listening from that school district. Why should they choose RSU 13 versus Camden or Mondomic?
I don't really like to get into the competitive nature of it because, you know, I feel like we build a community. But what I can say is
What's the benefits? How do we do that?
I feel like we do an exceptional job of building community and really meeting every kid where they're at and developing creative programming through like some things that Molly's talking about, or through our STEM liberal arts academies, through the classes that we take, through the opportunities provided for kids. You know, I think we've really developed a great capacity to really make a program for our kids that they can find valuable, and that they can have input in. I think kids feel comfortable coming up with ideas and sharing those thoughts, and we can brainstorm those things together. So they're active participants in their education as well. We're not just doing it to them, but we're really trying to provide education with them.
That's awesome. Thank you both for coming today. I love this conversation. Next week, I believe that we have another series on this from another school district, which is great.
Awesome.
But you know, I would just say is that some of the key takeaways that I took today is that the importance of investing in our youth and focusing on those entrepreneurial skills, but also just the collaboration is so important. And I really appreciate you saying that. It's not a competition model, right? It's we're all in it together. This is a great herd, and we just got to put these kids in the right areas and support them, engage them, and that's really, really cool. You know, I'd love how the schools, the families, and the community can collaborate and build a bright future. You know, I love this conversation. We got to keep it going. We got to continue to really engage kids, engage educators, and you know, lawmakers and business leaders, community leaders, and just say we have to invest in these kids. We cannot give up on them because they are smart. Listen, every single parent, I guarantee it, every generation has always said, oh boy, our future is not bright. Oh my gosh, they're going to be running our country. Guess what? I'm okay with this because these kids are smart and they are adapting. They just went through hell. It's called COVID. All right. And I'm going to be fine with this. But I would just say thank you again for both of you. Thank you, Facebook Live. Thank you for our YouTube followers as well. We'll have this posted very shortly. Please continue to tune in every single week. We're on the air Tuesday mornings, 7 to 8 a.m. And if you'd like to learn more about what the Rock Coast Entrepreneurs, as well as the Chamber of Commerce and other organizations like RDIA, RSU 13, and just so many great organizations, please continue to follow the show, and we'll make sure that you're all very well taken care of. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Thank you.
You must have made up some of those buttons.